Welcome to the War Zone. It's about the warrior stories.
Welcome guys to another episode of This is the Warrior Zone, where we talk about sickle cell warriors, how the lifestyle, what they go through, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today we have a special guest, Jemela and Terrell. Please introduce yourself to the people, let them know who you are, what you do, where you're from. Let's start.
So I am Jemela Williams. I am 44 years young, a sickle cell warrior SS, and I am from Kansas City, Missouri. What I do is mostly social media, but I am also currently the Vice President for URL-EO and Sickle Cell Disease Association of the Midwest, or Sickle Cell Midwest for short. So I'm the Vice President and Social Media Manager. And my sickle cell story began when I was about 3 months old. That's when I was diagnosed. My mom would say I would always cry. My hands and feet were swollen. Of course, now we know that is hand-foot syndrome, which is one of the first signs of a child having sickle cell disease. So 3 months old, I was diagnosed. I would say my story is a lot different because growing up, I didn't, once I made the transition, which was difficult as it is for many warriors, I didn't have many issues with, the stigma, the discrimination, and things like that. So I think it's because I haven't had so many of those issues, I think it's why I feel it's so important to speak out for other warriors who go through those issues and call out the hospitals, call out the administrations that are putting this burden of discrimination, of stigma, name calling on other warriors. So when something is going on, I have no problems calling out the hospital, calling out doctors, whoever is mistreating them, because we already go through so much. So the last thing we need is to be called trash or drug seekers, disrespected just because we happen to live with sickle cell disease.
Have you ever had challenges yourself, being in hospital and being mistreated personally?
I have not been mistreated. The only challenges I've really had is, like most warriors, we are hard sticks. So the worst time I had to be...
Difficulty to poke, is that what you mean?
Yes, hard sticks, yes. It was about 2 hours. I had to wait because they said they didn't have anyone to give my veins. They tried, they failed. No one could do it. So they were saying, we need to wait for an emergency team or the NICU team. So I was there for 2 hours. They gave me oral pain meds, but obviously if oral pain meds would have worked, I'd stayed home.
They couldn't give you IM?
They never mentioned anything like that. And at that time, I had no idea about that.
Okay.
This was, I want to say, 2018.
Okay.
One thing I will say, the nurse was very attentive. I was there with my best friend, my mom, and my aunt, and he kept coming back, checking on me. How are you doing? Can I get you something? Do you need to go to the restroom? I'm so sorry about this wait. They're coming. I'm checking on it again. But it was horrendous pain. I was pretty much writhing in the bed with nothing but Zofran and whatever else they gave me in a heated blanket.
What about you, Terrell?
My name is Terrell Riddle. I'm from Kansas City. I also am with Uriel EO and Sickle Cell Disease Association of the Midwest, or Sickle Cell Midwest for short. I am the treasurer of the organization, so I play with numbers. The bank account is the smallest portion, but I play with numbers. My journey with sickle cell started at birth. I was diagnosed at birth. A few years in, I had my first diagnosable sickle cell crisis. My mom said I always had pain, but she always thought it was just growing pains. It was the pains of a toddler, until the day there was nothing she could do at home to stop the pain. She took me to the ER, but unfortunately so little was known about sickle cell at the time. She had to talk to the ER doctors and tell them I had sickle cell in order to get some type of treatment plan started. I started seeing a hematologist, but into my adult years, I fell between the gaps of transition care. When I stopped seeing my hematologist, that's when they simply said, go find an adult doctor, but there was no list of doctors. There was no guidance on who's the best practice, who's best to see, who's a hematologist, who specializes in sickle cell. So I just kind of wandered around for years until I found somebody. Unlike Jemela, I had situations.
During that time, were you having crises? Were you going to the hospital?
I was having crises. I was going to the hospital. I didn't really go to ERs a lot because I did have a primary care physician who had a urgent care. So an hour and a half before he started actual office visits, he would do urgent care. So I can do regular home meds at home, but if I needed more, if I needed something stronger, I'd have to go to his office and he would prescribe something that I can take to the pharmacy and get a stronger script. And it was usually just a 5-day dose.
But it's oral medication.
Oral medication. The few times I did go to the ER, I fell into the situation of I may spend an hour in the waiting room before I'm taken to a treatment room. I may get pain meds through IV, or I may sit. I remember one day in St. Louis, I sat for 3 hours in an exam room. Nobody ever came in to give me anything except for a cup of water, and 3 hours later they walked in and said, it's a sickle cell crisis, you can be discharged home now. Without anything. No pain treatment management. I left that ER and actually did go to another ER, and one of the first questions they asked me were, how many ERs have you visited today?
Oh my God. Okay. So, what do you think that this is? Why, and this is, how far back was that?
So I'm 41 years old. I use the word old because I'm excited to have excelled beyond 18, where I was told I wouldn't survive past. So this all happened when I was in my early 20s. So roughly 22, 25 years ago.
So how things are now compared to 20, like, have you seen improvement in the care of sickle cell for yourself and for people that you know?
I took my treatment decisions into my own hands, and I feel like to evaluate that process based on my experience would be very different, because when I found out how I was being treated in certain ERs, I stopped going to those ERs and I would find the ER that treated me better. So I only go to one emergency room, I only go to one care clinic because I know what their treatment protocol is, and I only go to that location. I've heard stories about other locations, and I simply avoid those locations if at all possible.
So for people that don't, like, since I know you guys in a relationship, if you guys can talk a little bit about that, like, from outside looking in, what was the, for lack of better words, what was the stigmas, what was the things or the stories that you hear about people having sickle cell and being in a relationship, and now you guys being in a relationship, how do you guys feel about that, and what can you talk about from that perspective?
I was told to never anticipate or plan on having a relationship, honestly, because I wouldn't live long enough to enjoy it, and you don't want to put that hurt and pain on the other person. like I said earlier, I've excelled what the doctors told me I would live past. So I entered what I call my 20 stupids, and I did everything under the sun with the exception of crack cocaine and all of that other stuff that was just damaging to life. But I went for what I thought would be enjoyable, and I quickly realized that those situations were more harmful than they were helpful. As far as relationships, I was told, be careful entering relationships with someone with sickle cell disease or sickle cell trait, because you'll have a kid with sickle cell, you won't live long enough to take care of them. The other person may die before you, and you may not be able to take care of that child. That child's gonna grow up without parents, and all of these other different stigmas. But being in a relationship with Jemela, I learned that informed decisions matter. We went into this relationship knowing that we both have sickle cell. We went into it knowing what our children's status is. I have a daughter already from a previous relationship. But we also entered this relationship knowing that if we do have a child, we would try, if our relationship lasts long enough, if she puts up with me long enough for kids, that we would try some of the other options that are available, such as sperm donation or
In vitro.
IVF, some situations I just learned here at the conference, prenatal, I don't remember the name of it now because I'm not reading my notes, but there are other things that can be done. So I would explore options.
I was told, what would happen if you were in a relationship with somebody else with sickle cell. How are they going to take care of you? How are you going to take care of them if you both have sickle cell disease and you're both, going through crisis, going through fatigue and things like that. And even when I was younger, I dated, most of the guys I have dated did have sickle cell, because that's who, going to sickle cell camp, that's who I was in contact with. And during high school, it wasn't something that I was readily like, hey, I have sickle cell, you want to date? It wasn't anything that I was doing. So, after high school was when I met other guys, and those other guys were at sickle cell camp, and they were counselors like I was, and, I dated. But, even in the sickle cell community, it's like, yeah, we have the outlook like, yeah, you can date those guys, but that's just, you're just having fun. It's nothing like long term. It's just strictly dating, nothing like that. So when I first met him, it was, I wasn't attracted. I didn't even think about him or anything like that. It was never an option because, you were in a relationship anyway. And it just never crossed my mind until we finally got to know each other. Other things had changed and we became friends first. But I think somebody was talking about this sometime this week, and they was talking about being in a relationship and taking care of each other. I can't remember what the question was, but some people, I think communication is a big part of it going into it, because some people like to be touched when they're having crisis, and some people don't. Like, he does not like to be touched. But that's what I grew up with. When I was having a sickle cell crisis, my mom would rub my legs, rub my arms, rub my back. So it's weird getting used to somebody just not wanting that touch or anything like that. But communication is a big deal. A lot of times he says, like, he'll be sick or something or in pain and be down, and I'll be trying to take care of him and do this and do that. And he's like, sit down, because he said, I'm already down. Both of us can't go down. So it's communication is a big factor, and sometimes you can't always get that out of me, because sometimes I'll just, even my mom knows this, when I'm like too silent, she's like, what's wrong, something's wrong with you, you're in pain or something, and he doesn't always, he knows it now, but he feels like sometimes like I'm not, he has to pull it out of me. Like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? I need to know. So we've had situations where, you know, he's had to take me to the ER. I've been really sick in a crisis at his place and all of that stuff. So we've gone through those moments.
I'll ask the same question for both of you. Have you been in a relationship before where you were in a situation where the person didn't have sickle cell, and how did that go? And what have you learned from that coming to this relationship that can make it work? So it's a twofold question.
I've had relationships where the woman I was dating did not believe my sickle cell pain existed. And that kind of left me to feel abandoned or alone when I was in pain, when I was going through my situations. I remember actually saying, "Hey babe, I think I need to go to an urgent care clinic." And the response I got was, you either need to take an ambulance or an Uber, and we can't afford an ambulance right now. So the difference in that and going into this relationship is I'm dating someone who understands my pain. She knows my pain is real, and she knows that when I say I'm in pain, because I hide it a lot, she knows that when I say I'm in pain and I need to go somewhere, she comes to where I am, or she gets me ready and she'll take me to the urgent care. So I'm not the only one to take her to the ER. She's also taking me where I need to go for pain management or treatment of any kind.
So do you think that being in a relationship with somebody that understands what you go through, it makes it easier? Like there's certain things you don't even need to say, like you guys understand?
Yeah, I think to some point, yes. I think it can be a little easier because you don't have to, you know, it's just like I'm hurting, you know, he'll ask like where I'm hurting, but it's not like, oh, it feels like this and it feels like this and it hurts. He just gets it like, is it crisis pain or is it such and such pain? He'll ask, you know. But you don't have to go into depth because he knows that you're hurting. He knows it's real, especially when I'm going as far to actually tell him about it and verbally speak it out loud. He knows it's a serious thing, and I know it's a serious thing for him. So we don't have to go into detail. You know, we'll be like, do you need to go to the clinic? Do you need to go to the ER? Or you think you can manage it from here? And I feel like other relationships, they won't go through all that. They won't understand it. They won't even ask stuff like that. Like, do you need to go to the clinic? Can you wait it out? Do you need to go to the ER? What can I do? So we just know, and we've been together. So we've been friends before that. So we just kind of understand because we both do have sickle cell, and we do, you know, keep the lines of communication open.
Did that ever happen that you guys were both sick at the same time?
It has.
Yeah, how was that?
For us, I think it kind of went to communication, who's having what pain and who's able to do. And we ended up just staying in one place together so that we can take care of each other. Whoever's got the energy will get up and make sure that both of us have water. Whoever is not medicated right now or getting ready to take their next dose of pain medicine would go ahead and get pain medicine for both of us. Whoever's not asleep would just kind of take care of each other back and forth one way or another. There was one day where she was in crisis and I was in pain as well. I just didn't tell her. I went through all of the steps to take care of her. Once I knew she was laying down and relaxed, then I turned around and I took care of myself. And that's when I laid down and I said, as long as you're comfortable, I'm gonna tell you now that I'm gonna take my pain meds too and lay down next to you. So it goes back to, and really, it's any relationship, but it goes back to effective communications. If we can stay open with each other, if we can stay honest with each other, and we can effectively communicate and not shut down on each other, then we can take care of each other, which makes taking care of ourselves better because we're not stressed out about the person that's sick.
If there's for lack of better terms, like an advice or recommendation, is there something that you could tell audiences, like people that have sickle cell or not, about being in a relationship with us? What would you say? What is an important thing that somebody that wants to be in a relationship with someone that has sickle cell, what is something that's important for them to know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
It's a deep question.
It is. Wow. The first thing I would say is be there for them. Make sure that they know, and please be that person, but make sure they know that you are someone they can rely on. Someone they can trust to support them when they're at their very lowest and they feel like, you know, they can't go on anymore. Somebody they can lean on, somebody they can be honest with about, hey, I feel like this and I need to go to the ER, but I'm really scared to go to the ER because I haven't had the best experiences. You know, be their advocate, basically. Yeah, that's one thing. Be open to communication, and please educate yourself on sickle cell. Don't just enter the relationship and not educate yourself on sickle cell disease, what it means to be an ally of someone with sickle cell disease or companion of someone with sickle cell disease. Talk to them. Not only educate yourself, but talk to them and ask them, what do you need from me? What can I do for you? What can I do? Who can I be to be the best person to support you as you go through this journey?
And I think that also becomes a call to action for the warriors, because a lot of times when we're in pain, we shut down and we don't communicate. Have to have the understanding that if you're in a relationship with somebody, whether they have sickle cell or don't, and they're asking questions because they care. They're asking questions because they don't understand and they want to understand. So we need to break away from our shutdown and open up and talk to that person that's asking questions. Allow ourselves to be helped and allow them to be the ones to help us.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.